Okay, hey, we're good. We got enough. Thank you for taking some time out of your smoky summer. Welcome to the Wednesday, August 6th, meeting in the Capital Region Transportation Council Planning Committee. Start with introductions. I'm Steve Feeney, Schenectady County.
Randy Milano, NISDOT, Region 1.
Bill Trudeau, City of Albany.
Mike Butler, City of Mechanicsville.
Jim Lambert, Saratoga County.
Ryan Riper, Town of Wilton.
Mike Dutry, City of Saratoga Springs.
John Schneider, Port of Albany.
Mark Castiglione, Regional Planning Commission.
Sandy Nicholas Transportation Council.
Good morning, Andrew Tracy, Transportation Council.
Yep, Martin Hull from the Transportation Council.
Liz Podolsky King with Highland Planning.
Ethan Townsend, Transportation Council.
Adam McCarville, Transportation Council.
Sadie Pratt, Lavella Associates.
Bob Rice, FCM Engineer. David Nelson, Transportation Council. Tom Romano, Town of Colony. Rick Straw, Village of Voorheesville.
Great.
Okay.
And listening online, we've got a lot today. Leah Rye from the Transportation Council, Lisa Ramondo from Albany County, Chris Wallen from the City of Schenectady, Ed Snyder from GPI, Jamie O'Neill from the Town of Malta. I'm sorry, I'm gonna butcher this name. Voivod Ging from CHA. Laura Robertson from Town of Niskuna, Lindsay Buck from the Village of Stillwater. Or Town of Stillwater, I should say. Lisa Ramondo from Albany County, Megan Daly from the Port of Albany. Melissa, if you could just put your full name and affiliation in the chat, that would be great. Michael Baudet from the Thruway Authority, Mike Williams from CDTA, Nicole McGrath from Federal Highway Administration, Parker Morris from the Transportation Council, Rosa Tirino, sorry, from Albany County, and Teresa LaSalle from the Transportation Council. Oh, and the Melissa is Melissa Cherubino from the City of Waterville.
Okay, thank you, Sandy. No visitor issues today? Nobody signed
No
up?
visitor issues.
So we move right into presentation. Is that where we're going? You introduce?
We can, yeah. So we are wrapping up a bunch of our linkage studies. And I invited our partner Liz Podolsky from Highland Planning to give a presentation on our Broadway multimodal resiliency plan. And I think this is an interesting study because it really is focusing on the resilience of the transportation system and of the community at large. So I will turn it over to Liz.
Thanks, Andy. Any preferences? Can everyone hear me okay? I'm back here. Okay, great. So you want to go to the next slide, Sandy? We just wanted to give, as Sandy noted, we're wrapping up this linkage study right now. We had the final public workshops in June, took public comment through July 11th. On the draft report, which has been on the project website for about 2 months now, but I just wanted to give some background on what the study is here, what the goals of it were, where we were conducting the study, some of the key findings from our existing conditions and baseline corridor assessment, highlight some of the key study recommendations, and talk a little bit about implementation. So we're going to do this quickly in about 15 minutes, but hopefully, gives you a good overview and I can answer any questions too. So we will jump right in. This study came directly out of the Albany County Climate Resiliency Plan, which identified the Broadway corridor as vulnerable to heat, socially vulnerable, and also flood vulnerable, or vulnerable to flooding, given its location along the Hudson River. We are looking at the Broadway corridor as from downtown Albany into the city of Waterville. So it's a really important north-south local connector too. It's carrying a bus rapid transit route, the Blue Line, CDTA's Blue Line. And lots of people walk and bike. It's adjacent to the Empire State Trail as well. So a lot of interconnectivity with different modes of transportation. And as Sandy noted, this was funded through the linkage program in the UPWP at the Transportation Council. So we looked at about a 6.5 mile stretch of Broadway and Route 32 from Albany, starting at Clinton Avenue, all the way up to 25th Street in the city of Waterville. We worked with all of these different entities, plus several others that I'll highlight on the next slide. But I just want to highlight that corridor really changes along the length of it, varying characters from kind of moving through the warehouse district in Albany to Manans Main Street into the city of Waterville, where it's more densely populated as well. On the next slide, we had a study advisory committee that guided the study led by Albany County, but also with representation from the Capital District Regional Planning Commission, CDTA, the Transportation Council, the City of Waterville, the City of Albany, NISDOT, and NISDOT does own and maintain the whole stretch of Route 32 through the village of Manans and the town of Colony, which is a significant portion of the study corridor, as well as the village of Manans and then the consultant team that was supporting the work. The core goals of the study on the next slide were to, one, look at the corridor and identify ways to increase safety, availability, and connectivity of public transit, of bicycle infrastructure and pedestrian infrastructure, while making sure that this continues to be a, operate as a important corridor for car movement as well. We also wanted to look at ways to interconnect these different modes of transportation. So as I mentioned, looking at the adjacent sidewalk networks, looking at the adjacent destinations that the corridor connects people to, and the Empire State Trail that's running along the Hudson River. I think maybe a different take on this study than maybe some of the other transportation studies that have been done is we also looked at the natural systems along the study corridor. So we looked at ways not only to see, look at those flood risks, but how do we improve resiliency to flooding and how do we reduce heat vulnerability along the corridor? So there was a lot of focus on the urban forest and ways to enhance the urban forest along the corridor and incorporate green infrastructure to absorb water and reduce heat along the corridor. And then looking at ways to create redundancy. So how do we kind of layer additional, better connect different modes of transportation, but have different options. So if, the road was closed in an area, making sure that that is not stopping movement in the area, for example. And then really looking at this as a regional model for testing some innovative solutions where natural systems are integrated into transportation corridors. And I think importantly, this was a regional study where we're working with 4 different municipalities, as well as the state, to come together around a cohesive vision for the 6.5 mile stretch of street. So we can jump into the baseline corridor assessment. We looked pretty comprehensively at the different systems. I'm just going to highlight a few here and look at multimodal infrastructure as well as the natural infrastructure. Traffic volumes along the study corridor range from about 2,600 a day to 2,000 or 12,000. We really see increased traffic volumes up in Waterville, where Congress Street Bridge ties in at 19th Street, and also in the area where exit 6 from I-787 is tying into Broadway, and further north in the Manans near 378. Posted speed limits vary, but they're 25 to 30 miles an hour along the whole corridor, but we do see higher 85th percentile speeds, typically where we have some of those higher traffic volumes too, and where we see major regional roadways tying into Broadway. From a sidewalk connectivity standpoint, most of the corridor does have sidewalks. On both sides of the street, there are 2 notable gaps that are shown here. One under the Livingston Ave Rail Bridge in the city of Albany. The sidewalk just ends as you get to the bridge on one side of the street. And we lose sidewalks too as you get to the interchange with 378 and Manans, which is shown on the bottom. The next slide also just looks at some of the bike and bus infrastructure. I think some of the notable findings is that there's been a lot of investment on this corridor. It is a blue line, BRT blue line. So, but bus infrastructure is in a good situation. We did look for opportunities to enhance it along the corridor and build on the improvements that CDT has made. And bike infrastructure really varies in quality and type. There are sharrows along the corridor, straight bike lanes, buffered bike lanes, and then even a section of Broadway and Waterville has as a separated shared use path where it is the Empire State Trail. So you have a really protected system too. But one of the goals was to how do we start to create a cohesive system of infrastructure along this corridor, recognizing that it's so different along that 6.5 mile stretch. As I noted, we also took a close look at natural infrastructure. It's flood prone, not just because it's next to the Hudson River, but because it's at the receiving end of several highly urbanized watersheds. You're getting all of this runoff upstream from the town of Colony, from more urbanized suburban areas that's flowing down and landing on Broadway also. So there's a lot of spot nuisance flooding that we heard both from the public, from CDTA and from other entities, that as well as on the next couple slides, there are definitely, the whole corridor is weaving in and out of FEMA floodplains from the floodway near where Patroon Creek comes in at Tivoli in the city of Albany, and kind of weaving in and out of the 100 and 500-year floodplain as well. So we know flooding is an issue. A lot of that's driven by impervious cover. This just shows you all of the the parking lots in the study area along Broadway. Blue buildings and orange are the roads and sidewalks. So almost 41, over 40% of the whole study area is impervious. So water's not going into the ground, it's running off to another location. So again, a big goal of this was to see how can we absorb some of that water in the public right of way. And these are just some of the areas flagged by the public and just, site conditions that we observe. So you see pooling a lot at the bottom of curb cuts, under Livingston Ave Bridge, it's a low point. So, we did hear about a lot of, wetness and accumulation of water under the bridge as well. We inventoried all of the trees within the right of way along Broadway. There was 356 trees. And in that 6.5 mile stretch of roadway, only 13% of that study area or the public right of way is covered by canopy. So that's actually, it's pretty low. Most of the study corridor is comprised of 3 different species: Callery pear, honey locust, and Nora maple. 2 of those are invasive species, so really low diversity in tree diversity, and they're invasives. I know the city, cities are not necessarily planting these anymore, so it's an important consideration as we're replacing trees to start to diversify the urban forest so that it is more resilient to pests, it's more resilient to changes in the climate, and that we can continue to realize the benefits of the urban forest. And very few transit stops have any trees adjacent to them. So 3 transit stops overlapped with canopy cover. There are 100+ transit stops along that whole corridor. So I think a big opportunity, especially transit stops where you don't have a shelter and people might want some shade as they're waiting for the bus. That's a huge opportunity just as a quick fix to get some trees in consistently at transit stops. So I'm going to just walk through some of the key recommendations. We really made sure that the recommendations were grounded in those project goals of creating redundancy. So how can we layer transportation systems in and interconnect them to adjacent systems, test innovative solutions, really increase the safety, availability, and accessibility of bike, pedestrian, and car infrastructure and transit infrastructure, interconnect those systems, and again, integrate those natural systems. We looked closely at the Capital District's Complete Streets Design Guide, the City of Albany's Bike and Ped Master Plan, the City of Albany's Complete Streets Design Manual, and every municipality actually has ADA transition plans too, so referencing those as well. And then relied a lot on public input too. So we had several public meetings. We did pop-ups in every single municipality at kind of high foot traffic areas. We did focus groups and some one-on-one discussions at the Waterville Housing Authority. We spoke quite a bit with the North Albany Neighborhood Association and just tried to get a sense of what are some of the key issues. People noted high speeds. A lot of people, especially in North Albany, noted flooding and standing water and water intrusion into their basements. Many people noted the lack of protections for bicyclists and pedestrians, and that while they would maybe bike on the corridor, they wouldn't feel comfortable bringing their family, for example, onto the corridor to bike. And the difficulty to cross at intersections, some of the key intersections being at 2nd Ave, which is Route 32 and 19th Street in Waterville, really challenging to cross at that intersection. I know it's a focus of improvements now with the Congress Street Bridge, but several lanes of traffic that you have to cross, we don't have much time to do it. So that was one of the main intersections that we heard about. So we're recommending along the whole stretch, the orange dotted line indicates protected bike lanes. And we are recommending sidewalk level protected bike lanes that would run from the city of Albany into the village of Manans and then move through Skylar Flats Cultural Park, which you can see kind of jogs to the right, and then would follow the Empire State Trail until you get to 13th Street and then follow 2nd Avenue. I will note too, the stretch in Waterville from essentially where Sandy's cursor is, where we move on to 2nd Avenue. That is the focus of some corridor concepts that were presented last night for Waterville and Green Island that took these design recommendations and integrated it into the Capital Region Vision Zero Safety Action Plan. So there's a lot of active projects along this corridor, and I'll note in a couple of slides just the opportunities to start integrating incrementally these recommendations into future projects. So we established design standards that we then pushed through the whole corridor, looking at bike lanes along the corridor and setting minimum widths for those. Green infrastructure, setting minimum widths for tree planting so that we ensured there's enough soil volume. And then for smaller spaces, recommending smaller plants. We set a maximum width of travel lanes at 11 feet and did a lot of the improvements along the corridor really focused on reducing lane width, especially as we move it into Manan. Some of those center turn lanes are holding 17 to 18 feet width of lane. And so even just narrowing those to 11 feet saves, can reallocate a lot of space, for example. And then transit, setting some standards around how much space needs to be available, like clear space in front of the shelters, space for the shelters, and then sidewalks as well on both sides of the street. And then recommending materiality. So looking at the integration of permeable surfaces so that even those hard surfaces can start to hold water, and then also that green, any natural systems can hold water as well. So I'm just going to give a couple examples of green infrastructure and then how those design standards were applied at one place. The report really looks at the whole corridor and shows the varying iterations of how those design standards could be applied. But green infrastructure we often use as a buffer. So a way to separate where we had space, the cyclists from the sidewalks, and looking at curb cuts to and drain inlets that would carry water from the roadway to those green infrastructure treatments. And those would have breaks, so there's connectivity to parking between the bike and sidewalk, but starts to turn a lot of that impervious space into pervious. On the next slide, we also looked at some different options where in the warehouse district, for example, where there's a lot of activity, a lot of pedestrian activity, potential for sidewalk dining. If we narrow those lanes to 11 feet, keep parking, we still are regaining a lot of space that could be reallocated at the sidewalk level. So maybe that center buffer becomes a porous paver that allows for sidewalk dining, still holds water, still serves as a buffer, but is allowing for more diverse use. On the next slide, we looked at these space constrained areas where we really didn't have a lot of space to put trees or green infrastructure. And we are proposing bioretention islands, which would be the targeted removal of one on-street parking space. So that's gaining you about 16 feet of length and 6 feet of width to just remove one parking space. And you could do a single bioretention cell there. You'd get trees in, that's canopy cover, that's going to cover the sidewalk, the street, the bus lane. It's limited parking removal. This could also happen at intersections where maybe you don't want cars to park anyway, and allows for the benefits of those natural systems in space constrained areas along the corridor as well. This is just one example, the existing cross section. This is in Manans and kind of highlighted on the right where this typology would apply. And we're recommending that, again, those existing travel lanes are narrowed. The bike lane would move to the sidewalk level, and we would integrate tree pits and green infrastructure along that corridor. Those typologies, we have them for the whole corridor. We look at the cost per linear foot for that application and also the impervious space reduction. And then this is just a rendering of what that could look like. We did a lot of studies at intersections as well to see how those cross sections would move through an intersection. This is one example where exit 6 ties into Broadway. So again, we were able to move the right turn lane in towards the center line, allowing us to really tighten up that curb radius right where we're connecting to the Empire State Trail and exit 6. So indicated in the top right there, we're reclaiming a ton of space that could be a really nice gateway and trailhead into the Empire State Trail. Right now, there's very little signage. It's hard to even know that you can get to the Empire State Trail there. So again, some of these changes both narrow the roadway, allow a lot of different, make it much more truly multimodal. We're having the bike lanes run behind the transit stops to reduce conflict between stopping buses and cyclists, and then also reclaiming some space for additional public space and trail connections. A couple targeted improvements that I just want to highlight again because of the focus on the urban forest. We've made some recommendations about 1, increasing tree plantings at transit stops, 2, diversifying the urban forest, and then a series of recommendations of how we can start to incrementally reduce impervious surface across the corridor. Some examples being you can connect tree pits, so just removing that small strip of impervious surface between some tree pits, and that's an example of it happening where those tree pits are now connected and those trees have much greater access to soil, water that's infiltrating, and just space to grow. We also made some recommendations around the use of structural soils and other media that can be placed under the adjacent sidewalk, allow roots to move under the sidewalk without heaving the sidewalk and without reducing the structural integrity of the sidewalk. In the implementation strategy, we highlighted all, and there's probably more, but some of the main projects that are happening right now that impact the Broadway corridor, that as Broadway is changing through these projects, thinking about implementing these recommendations in the Broadway multimodal resiliency study as one immediate next step to realizing some of this change and proposed change. We also highlight some of the needs around additional parking studies. There are some places where we're suggesting parking removal, but there needs to be reallocation of parking in public spaces so that we're not having a net loss of parking, for example, looking more closely at, still need to do some more detailed phasing, working with the municipalities to put together maintenance agreements, design and permitting, obviously coming as the design advances, and then really ongoing intermunicipal coordination. For the cost, this would be the cost if we build it all now, which no, it will not happen, obviously. But we broke the cost down by municipality. This is kind of for that full vision and looks at the incorporation of porous services, replacing sidewalks, narrowing travel lanes, relocating utilities. But on the next slide, we really focus also on like, what can you do now? How can we make some incremental progress by not only building on some of those existing projects that are happening along the corridor, but what we can do with paint and just reconfiguring, narrowing those lanes is something really easy to do with striping. And that can happen across the whole corridor for a very low cost. We can also think about in Waterville, there's an opportunity to just flip flop where we have buffered striped bike lanes. If the parking was moved to the outside and not on the curb line, you can have parking protected bike lanes and stretches of Waterville as well. So paint can be a really low cost way to start implementing some of these changes immediately. And then we did highlight several different funding sources and tied with a focus on state funding sources. And I just want to highlight, by looking at natural infrastructure, it starts to open the door for other funding sources that might not fund purely transportation projects. So for example, in the Environmental Bond Act that the state has, there's a green resiliency grant, first round of funding. So much of it went to corridor projects that were incorporating green infrastructure. So I think the benefits of looking at the integration of those two systems will also have the help from the funding and implementation side. Thanks. Yeah, thank you. And yeah, I don't know if we have time for questions.
We
or-
do, absolutely.
Anybody? Questions for Liz?
I don't know if there's any immediate impact, but just as far as the projects you had up there, from that freight movement, just wondering if there was any kind of cross communication with freight movement and narrowing of the streets in those particular corridors.
Yeah, we did not have conversations specifically related to the freight study. We set the maximum lane, all of our cross sections use 11-foot travel lanes. We didn't remove any travel lanes along the whole corridor. We just narrowed to 11 feet, which that was based on correspondence with CDTA as their preferred lane width for their buses to run the BRT. But yeah, we didn't have a specific, I know there's a lot of freight movement in and out, especially in Manans, connecting between Broadway and the waterfront. But
Yeah, I know there's just
Good
a lot of
question.
conversation about oversized loads and movement, just wondering if there was any event down the streets.
Yeah, I mean, a quarter like that. when
Most
we're-
likely, might be impacted.
Right,
I'm
yeah,
curious,
yeah. I mean, the reality is we're going to have some trade-offs in the region. There's a super load study we're talking about in a moment. That's why the super load study is important,
Yeah.
because we want to make sure that we do have a place for these very, very large things to move. But it might not be on a road like that, or a road like Lark Street that comes up. But where are things going to go? So, hence the need for this additional studies, because, every street, the flexibility of every street is going to be limited because of our narrow cross sections, just generally being an older region. So But no, but your point is well taken that when they get to designing the corridor projects, that they should be talking. To the freight community and make sure that, turning radii are appropriate for the trucks.
Thanks.
What kind of maintenance is involved with porous asphalt?
Typically it is an annual cleaning and maintenance, and yeah, I think the annual maintenance is really important, just to remove all of the small sediment that's gonna get in there and jam up the interstitial spaces and essentially make it not function as well.
Mhm.
So that typically can be done with essentially like a small vacuum type vehicle. So it might be a new piece of equipment that maybe is something that's shared across the municipalities that they can use to maintain the porous asphalt proactively to make sure its lifespan is as long as possible.
Thanks.
I had a quick question. You mentioned porous bike lanes. Are there examples here in New York of that technique in use?
So the porous asphalt. I'll have to look. I know that often asphalt is used for those sidewalk level bike lanes that you see in like, we had some pictures from Rochester from. I think in the city of Utah, that's actually concrete. But yeah, porous asphalt looks very similar to just asphalt.
Okay.
And I think one consideration, because we're doing it at the sidewalk level, there's, you're gonna get some salt from sidewalk salting too, that might impact the performance of the porous asphalt. So that would be one consideration. But it is functionally will feel the same and look very similar.
Okay.
If you use porous asphalt.
Okay, great.
Any other questions from us?
All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay, on to administration, previous meeting minutes of July 9th. Can I get a motion to approve those? Thank you, Bill.
Second.
Mark, second. Further discussion, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Anyone opposed, abstained? Motion carries. Sandy, moving on to the UPWP amendment.
Yes, and you're gonna notice I'm not using PowerPoints today, folks. It's a big day. So we do need to amend, I know we just had a conversation at our July meeting about amending the UPWP, but we had another item come up. Some of you were involved in a conversation about doing a super load freight planning study for the capital region. So for those that aren't familiar with the issue, the primary issue right now is that GE Vernova, that's creating the wind turbines out of Schenectady, can't move the units very easily over to the Port of Albany for shipment because they are so large and so heavy. There's really not a direct way to do it, and in some cases, it's taking upwards of 3 days to move one piece from Schenectady to the port. So the planning study is reaching a point because, we're afraid, and GE's not saying this, but we're afraid that if this continues, that we may lose them as a manufacturer here in the capital region. So this study, which we're adding to our UPWP, is to fund this super low corridors planning study. We're trying to have some seed money from the federal side of $50,000, which means we're reallocating budget in our UPWP for this. We're hoping other partners, perhaps Schenectady County, will be able to contribute the balance of the 200,000, but we'll have a placeholder in the UPWP as those details are worked out. Because since that's local funding, we don't need to further amend the UPWP. But this type of study, at least in our research thus far, is unprecedented for MPOs. So we may be embarking on something innovative and new nationally. And it hopefully will have some utility for us here locally in the short term, because we do know that there's immediate needs now. But we do hope to identify something or a series of routes, north, south, east, west. We're focusing on GE Vernova. There are other very large things that move through our region. You've probably seen the subway cars going out to San Francisco. You've seen other very, very large things. So there certainly is a need to at least be thinking about this and to minimize the impacts on local communities and residents, some of whom are literally having trucks running over their front lawns today. So that's the major adjustment to the UPWP that we're asking for this new consultant task. We're gonna change our budget around a little bit. We are still going to do the resilience plan for the region. Most of that work will be done next year, but we have some money still in this budget to get that project started in this fiscal year. We also made some adjustments on the funding, on other budget items, just related to completed tasks and a lower backlog, number than we anticipated. So all of that is itemized in the resolution, if you want to read the details, but, we are looking to ask you, to approve these, the UPWP amendment today.
That's resolution 25-8,
25-8,
and we're asking the planning committee to recommend that to the policy board.
correct. It's going to require policy board approval.
Can I get a motion to that effect?
Second.
John and Eric.
Thank you. Any further discussion? I know it's an important topic. We have a meeting.
Tomorrow with your county folks, yep.
Yeah. So we have a motion second. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Staying? Thank you. Okay, where are we going here, Sandy?
Next is the tip amendments.
Oh, all right, to the tip of.
Right to the tip amendment, yep.
Okay.
Randy, would you
Randy.
like to describe the tip amendment?
Sure, based on an updated engineer's estimate, we're requesting an additional $3.873 million for construction and CI on this. Really the cost increases, there's a lot of traffic restrictions in this area. And based on the other portion of this, the southern half of this, and bids that we got in on this, it seemed like there was just an underestimating on the cost of asphalt. So kind of a tough spot to do work in, so that's basically the gist of it.
Thank you, Randy. From where to where? This is 90.
Yeah, this is from Corporate Woods to the Northway, 87.
Stretch.
Yeah, the previous section was from 787 to Corporate Woods. That project was let back in May of last year.
This goes to policy, right? Cause it's over.
Over $3 million, correct?
Yeah.
Any questions for Randy? No money. Expensive.
Yes.
All right, can we get a motion to approve DOT's request? I guess to move it on to the policy board of $2 million. Cost change. Can I get a motion? Thank you, second. Thank you.
Make the second, I'm sorry.
Bill.
Bill, thanks.
Any further discussion? Motion second. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? Thank you, Randy. Thank you. Draft capital region vision 0.
Yep, so after nearly 2 years worth of work. We have finally got a draft plan that we are releasing for public review, which was included in the e-packet. Harry just asked me to highlight in the resolution, I mean, the primary objective of this plan is essentially to eliminate fatalities and reduce serious injuries by 50% by the year 2050. That goal is being also included in our in-motion plan. We're hoping to have some sample resolution language for local governments, certainly our funding partners, but perhaps other communities in the region to consider adopting this as local policy as well, which may open the door for access, should the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant program continue, to access those funds. If not, by, taking action on supporting the objectives of this regional plan, we also have highway safety improvement program funds that we can use to help implement some of the ideas of this plan. So, again, I just want to thank Carrie Ward and the team that worked on it with her for getting us to this point. The draft plan, like I said, is included in the e-packet. I know it's dense in terms of technical data, but I think, Carrie has presented to you folks, which is why we're not doing yet another presentation on this today. The content as it's been moving along, and I think it'll be a good resource for us moving forward as we move into implementation. So if you have any questions, let me know, but today's action, is to release the plan for public review and to recommend policy board approval in September.
Okay, so our board releases it to public review, the policy board.
Yeah, things have changed over the years because of timing, so, you know, a lot more of the authority has been delegated to you folks. To release these things for public review. We did a lot of that back at the June policy board meeting.
And it'll be on the website shortly thereafter. Is
Yep.
that-
Yep, we're gonna issue a press release. We have 3 things going out for public review today, so there'll be a press release with all those materials and everything will be on our website. And also this particular one will be on the Vision Zero website as well.
And the recommendation to the policy board is to approve the document.
Yeah, this is gonna be plan adoption. Well, you know, this is sort of the final opportunity for public comment this month. And if there's any, we'll have a kind of a response to comments, should we get any. But yes, this will be the final, this will be the big adoption, I guess, for like a better way to say it, in September.
Okay. So can I get a motion that Sandy's requesting for the draft resolution 25-9? Bill, thank you.
Second.
Mark, you guys are busy today. Any further
Investment.
any further discussion? We have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Anyone opposed, abstained? We have released the document.
Great, thank you. Thanks again for
okay.
everybody's hard work on that.
Moving on to another resolution, right? 25-10 is
Yep.
transit safety performance measured targets.
Yes, so this is one of these federal requirements. We have various performance measures that we approve and adopt the targets from our partners. For various topics. This particular one is tied to CDTA's Public Transportation Agency Safety Plan, which is also a federally required document. So all we're asking for you to do today, that document includes targets related to fatalities on the transit system, injuries, different events, reliability measures. And we're just asking you folks to adopt these targets, which we are including in our in-motion regional transportation plan.
Any questions for Sandy?
Are these resolutions a new thing?
They are strongly encouraged for each measure, yes.
Cool. Okay. Any questions? Then we need a motion to recommend adoption, right, of the targets to the policy board. Is that-
Yep, I have to approve it.
Okay. Can I get a motion?
Aye.
Have a second.
And the other one,
Did we get a second?
yes, Mike, the 2 Mikes, Mike Butler and George.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor, aye? Aye. Anyone opposed? Abstained? Motion carries, thank you. We're back to the draft Metropolitan Transportation Plan in motion. Gonna release that for public?
We are also releasing that for public review. So, you know, we've always been sharing with you folks, at prior meetings, all of the content pieces. We're just in the drafting stage where we were a little behind of where we want to be. We don't have a stylized version of the report yet. But we did make available for your review, an executive summary of about 10 pages. And then we have the full draft text available, which we're going to post for public review now. We're working on the stylized version as we speak and hoping we'll have that posted maybe in another couple of weeks, certainly before the policy board sees it for adoption. But in terms of the content part is wrapped up. So, you know, I encourage you folks to take a look at that, look at the project table, look at the strategies and actions being suggested, recommended, I should say. You know, and if we missed anything, let us know. But I think this again is a really a 2-year process is ending with this work. So I just wanted to thank all of our staff and our team that worked on this, as well as the many folks that participated on the in-motion task force over this last year and a half or so. So a lot of work went into this. But I think it's going to represent a very flexible plan for us. That doesn't commit us to any one thing, but would cover a range of options. Since we know federal policy is subject to change, particularly with the infrastructure law expiring in 2026. So we'll see how things evolve over time, but yeah, we're asking you folks to formally release the draft for public review today and recommend the policy board's approval in September.
Thank you, Cindy. Any questions for Sandy? So then can we get a motion to release the plan for review? Motion.
Yeah.
And I have a second.
Oh, second.
Like,
Okay. Any further discussion? So when did you think you'll have the?
stylized version, I worked all last week to get it to where we need to be. We're getting there. I'm hoping in the next week and a half, we'll have the stylized version.
Okay, all right, so we have motion a second. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Anyone opposed, abstained? Motion carries, plan is released.
Great, thanks.
Draft air quality conformity document. Say something else.
Yeah, much like the tip, you may remember we had to take this action to basically say that our plan or our projects in the tip were not going to negatively impact air quality. We have to do the same thing for the Metropolitan Transportation Plan. The simple fact is the ICG, as they're called, this interagency working group, said your plan is good. So this is just a formality for us, but we do need you to approve this because of the coverage area, which is shown on the map. Adirondack, Glens Falls, and 3 counties outside of our planning area are part of the air quality ozone non-attainment area. So we have to release this for public review as well. Little bit of an administrative action, but it is required. So we are going to ask you to release this for public review today for policy board adoption in September, and it becomes part of our in-motion plan.
So we are in non-attainment for those.
So technically, we're in attainment. However, there was a court case in California that said you don't get to not do this conformity step just because the standard changed, which is it's not because our air quality magically got better, the standard changed, which put us in an attainment area. So it's the only way that changes, and there's about 70, I think it was 90, I forget how many, but in fact, it's many MPOs across the country. We still have to do this exercise until the Clean Air Act is amended.
Okay, so we're just looking for a motion to release this document
for
for
public
public review.
Yep.
Can I get a motion?
Agree.
I was second.
And thank you.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Abstained? I guess our draft air quality document is released, notwithstanding the
review.
Canadian wildfire smoke that we.
I don't even want to
We
think
have
about
to-
that. Don't want to think about that impact.
Okay.
But I did just want to say, we have been talking about many of these subjects here now for 2 years. So, I just want to thank you all for your patience as we work through the planning process. It is important for the region in terms of how we set ourselves up to spend the federal dollars that do come here. This is not work that is just done in vain, and these are not plans that sit on the shelf necessarily. So I just wanted to thank you all for your participation in the process.
Thank you, Cindy. Discussion items, tip admin modifications, Andrew.
Anything earth shattering you'd like to share?
Nothing thrilling this month on the admin model front, but it was a quiet month. We only had 4 and we did them. So keep sending them in.
Okay. Thank you, Andrew. NISDOT project delivery, Randy. Anything?
No.
No.
Well, I've got one project, but. So. We led a project in July 24th, and it was for bridge rehab on I-87. This is all in 87 I-90 interchange. And we received one bid that came in almost 90% over the engineer's estimate. And really what we found from talking to the contractors is just the traffic restrictions and the risk out there of opening this up, because it's basically deck rehab. There's some other maintenance and some painting that was involved. So they basically have to open this thing Friday and then close it on Friday, start the work, and then open it back up on Monday morning with some pretty heavy liquidated damages. So we did reject the bid. And really what we're looking at is more of a comprehensive look at this whole, there's 10 bridges in that section. They're all built about the same time, all due for deck rehab. So we're taking a step back and looking at a more comprehensive plan. There's a couple bridges out there that have widened abutments, they have pedestals. So we're looking to a project that would first look at widening those bridges, because there's really no staging area out there, and the traffic was surprising when I saw the numbers for the ramp to 90 eastbound. So we're really just taking a step back and looking at this as a more comprehensive project. We don't want to go in, do one bridge, do another bridge, and we're out there for years. So this would probably be looking at a 2-year project, but the cost is pretty substantial, as you can imagine. So stay tuned as we take a step back and look at this.
It's all night work.
Weekends, nights, yeah. So we're looking at doing some work up there to free up some space. If we can widen those bridges and have room for staging, still have 2 lanes. Everybody knows trying to get on to the throughway 87, it's 1 lane, it used to be 2. So on a good day, it gets backed up. So a lot of contractors really wanted nothing to do with it, fortunately. So we had to reject the bids.
Okay.
Not good news, but you know,
Is what it is.
yes. So, thank you.
Thank you, Randy. Status of regional transportation planning initiative, Sandy.
Yeah, so we received the final report for the Voorheesville Safe Streets Policy and Planning document, basically their complete streets plan for the village, which has been previously presented on here. We just heard the Broadway Resilient Plan, which the final report should be available in the month of August. Central Avenue Corridor Study is at the draft report preparation stage, so that should be available for review in the not too distant future. Probably by the time we meet again, that probably will be a presentation for this group. We are just kicking off the Half Moon Clifton Park, Saratoga County Route 109 study. The Route 7 study is basically at the recommendation generating stage on in Niskayuna, which I know is a high profile project, given some of the crashes that have happened in recent months up there. And then we're just gonna be starting to initiate the 2 projects in Boston Spa and Saratoga Springs. We do have several technical assistance projects that are wrapping up. 2 are about to begin, one for Albany Airport, and one with the city of Albany. And the rest of the regional studies, I'm hearing that there's possibly the announcement today or this week for the draft or the final report for the 787 planning study. So I believe there's gonna be some press, we think.
So.
Yes, we were expecting that. Had staff kind of scrambling this morning,
Yep.
bombarded by the press.
Yeah.
So,
So it's-
yeah.
it should be out there in the 6 o'clock news is what I'm hearing.
That's why Greg's on vacation.
Exactly. We have a couple of other initiatives where we're working with Albany County on their ADA transition plan, as well as a I'll call it a kind of a complete streets active transportation study for some areas in the county. But a lot of these are starting to wrap up, which means, you know, we'll have staff time now to work on other things this fall and winter. So stay tuned as we get into some other planning activities and other discussions.
Okay, all right,
I'm all set.
thank you. Regional and local planning updates. Anything you want to add?
I don't think so. I think we're good.
All right,
We're happy to be wrapping up these very large.
Yeah.
Multi-year efforts.
move on to market, CDRPC.
All right, save the date, October 17th for our annual planning and zoning workshop at Hudson Valley Community College. Very engaging plenary presentation, being given by Sandy Mezowitz on her in motion plan. And a whole host of other engaging topics. We are approaching very soon the release of the Regional Climate Action Plan. That was developed in partnership with our Regional Climate Action Collaborative Group, representing regional stakeholders, local stakeholders, and advocacy organizations. So be on the lookout for that, to be released, and we just started our technical assistance project for the city of Albany, examining, potential locations for curbside EV charging in the city.
All right, thank you, Mark. What's CDTA? We have,
Hey everyone, this is Mike
let's-
Williams. Sorry I couldn't be there in person today. So for this month, we have a number of service changes coming up on August 24th. Fortunately, most of it is incremental frequency and span reductions as we're trying to bring the size of our system in line with our current budget and driver head count. But one positive will be the introduction of a new connection between this region and the Glens Falls region. And that'll take the form of a new weekday route between downtown Saratoga Springs and downtown Glens Falls. So we're very excited to roll that out. And details on all of our service changes are available on our website. Also, at the end of this month, we'll be presenting our transit development plan to our board, with the intent being for them to formally adopt it at September's meeting after 1 month of review. And a quick update on our FTA triennial review, which I mentioned last month. We're pleased to report that we completed this without any open deficiencies. There were 3 remaining at the exit conference, but we were able to close them all out prior to the issuance of their draft report, which Melissa is hoping to receive this week. So we're very happy about that. And that is it for this month. Thank you.
okay, thank you, Mike.
Yep.
Randy, back to ISDOT. You're good.
Nothing else.
You're good.
We're good.
All right, Steve. Thruway Authority, do we have anybody?
Michael was online, is he still? He just jumped off.
Okay. Airport, anybody from the airport?
David did not join us today.
Okay. Port District.
I guess just in line with the freight conversation, there was some, I guess, a change in the pattern. I think from one of the previous meetings we held, they had identified a route that was 3 hours long. Looks like that route now changed to a 13-hour long route. Not as bad as the 3 days, but it is obviously, not a deal as the 3 hours. So it's just to keep you up to date that these issues are still very much relevant. Looking to try to identify that ideal corridor. The port is also working with Mike's group, Kate Maynard, for FTZ designation. We find that this is a designation that'll keep us competitive for the region. It's a lot easier for some of these international companies and manufacturers to do business when there's zone to zone transfers within the FTZ network, which allows them to kind of continue their international trade to certain extent tariff free or with some additional benefits. So we're eagerly working on that process, and hopefully we'll get that designation soon.
FTZ is foreign trade zone
What is it?
for the uninitiated.
That's it. Thank you. Local government, anybody share anything of interest?
I just have one other update
Yes.
to mention. So Schenectady, Saratoga, and Rensselaer County are in the federally designated Northern Border Regional Commission area. They recently just announced a new round of funding opportunities for infrastructure projects, including roadway infrastructure, bridges, and they have a particular program called the Timber for Transit Program, focused on innovative solutions and uses for wood products for transportation projects. If you want more information about those programs, be on the lookout for an email coming from CDRPC. And as your designated local development organization for the NDRC, we can assist you with grant applications and other things.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Please note, upcoming meetings, events and deadlines. We meet again October 1st.
This group will meet October 1st. I did, with the release of the in motion plan, we have a virtual public webinar, meeting webinar tomorrow at noon, which will be recorded if folks, can't attend. So that will be our archive for the kind of presentation on the overall plan. And we're also doing an open house at the Delaware Avenue branch of the Albany Public Library on August 12th. And our final survey closes August 15th.
Thank you, Sandy. Then I guess all we need is a motion to adjourn.
Correct.
Can I ask, I'm so sorry, this is Leah. I want to let everyone know, October 1st happens to be Yom Kippur.
We're
Does
holding a
anyone-
meeting. We have to.
Okay, never
Right,
mind.
Leah. I should have told you that.
No worries, thank you.
Yep. Yeah, it's Yom Kippur, but I'm on vacation the week before or the week after, so we have to hold the meeting on
So,
October 1st, so
as we can get it.
as long as we can get it going.
Okay, all right. All right then, motion to adjourn. I believe I have a motion. Second?
So Ken and who was the second?
I'll second.
Mike?
All right, all those in favor, aye? Aye. Anyone opposed, abstained? Thank you for taking time out of your
Thanks, everybody.
busy summer. Thank you. That was a late.
Yeah.